Here we go. It may be a new. Adam, right now we're in that weird in-between stage. We don't know if anyone can see us and hear us or not. What do you think?
Oh, they can definitely see us.
Oh, they can?
Yeah, for sure.
Can they hear us? We're on a new stream.
TBD.
We're on a new stream because we had some technical difficulties that, oddly enough, were not related to us. We don't think.
Yeah, we're in here. We're doing it every day, man.
Oh, I like this. Adam's about to get an attitude. See, I like this. Take out your attitude on YouTube, but make sure they don't kick us off the stream now.
Yeah, we might get kicked off again. We'll see how it goes.
If we don't talk about it. We don't know what happened. Video and audio, okay. Okay, good. This is, I think, is another stream, though. And it should say, like, take 2 or something on it. You'll hear it live Q&A. So we're going to give folks
Peter, you look.
To come over.
You got a little background light going on.
You know what?
You look fantastic.
We have a little help in here that we're not even going to talk about right now because it's talk about TBD. But, yeah. We can't claim credit for that. I got a little extra light here. But that's not related to our streaming situation. We just think YouTube kicked us off for some reason, totally unrelated to certainly Ron Carter. And I don't think it was related to what we were saying. So thanks so much for the Ron Carter talk. That was really nice. Cool. Yeah, so we're going to give a chance for folks. Rich made it over. Vegas is in the house. Give everybody a chance to get over. We just got kicked off. So what happens is, do you know about this, Adam? Getting kicked off of you've been kicked out of some physical venues before. I know that.
I've been kicked out of plenty of bars in my day.
But have you been kicked off YouTube before?
I think I have, yeah. I think we got kicked off. We've got kicked off a few sessions. Definitely got kicked off Facebook every Tuesday night for several weeks in a row.
That's right. That was a different thing. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to sort of ease our way into this. Thank you guys for coming over and finding us. If this is the third stream you're on with us today, we are extremely excited. But just know, as worthwhile as this one's going to be, that first one, that was some gold with Ron Carter, wasn't it?
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, go check out that You'll Hear It episode we just posted with the legend himself, Ron Carter, talking about his book Chartography and all these great bass lines. He's got these transcriptions of 5 performances of Autumn Leaves of his bass lines when he was playing with the Miles Davis Quintet. It's pretty amazing to hear him discuss that band and like his philosophy on teaching and the book. It's incredible. And pick up your copy. I put a link in the chat. We'll put a link in the description here by the end. It's really great.
This will be yet the third place we're placing this link. And it is fun. So hopefully folks heard us on the other thing, but I'll just repeat a little bit the joy it's been in. Well, what I was starting to say actually was that the notational system that Ron Carter came up with, specific to explaining and demonstrating and really showing in line the musical choices that he made on the same tune, are really brilliant, because we've complained many times, Adam, about the Western musical notation system is not adequate for jazz music, but we haven't done anything about it. We just complain about it and say learn it off the record.
Oh yeah,
Ron Carter actually did something about it.
Yeah, he actually did. That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah. He unlike us who have just lazily moaned about it for years. Yeah, he actually did something about it and created a nice piece of work that counters the limits that Western notation have for kind of analyzing improvised music.
Right.
It's done brilliantly,
Absolutely.
So another thing we can do with this is Q&A. So
yes. Well, actually, the title of this is You'll Hear It Q&A, live Q&A, take 2. So we need to do that.
We haven't done we haven't done a public Q&A in quite a bit. We've been doing them over on Open Studio Pro.
Yes.
For the last several weeks, but we've not done one on YouTube for a long time. So we're taking all your questions today about music or piano or the Ron Carter interview.
You kind of changed up your accent there. What's up with that?
No, man, that's just I went back to my original.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do some questions. And I just want to say big shout out to Open Studio Pro. This is shameless plug, but also big shout out to my friend Adam Maness here and what he's doing with this pro. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, point to yourself again. Now we got it on. There you go. What Adam is doing with and what your students are doing. I mean, it's really a community.
It's awesome.
It's a community effort over there, and I get a chance to drop in from every now and then to add just a little bit. But you're guiding folks through every day. Folks are helping each other. Folks did a lot of helping each other and kind of catching up. Last week it was a fun first catch-up week for them to be able to go over a lot of the concepts they learned. But I mean, the amazing thing is really like seeing the progress of folks and seeing what it's doing to their confidence. And then like as we come out of this lockdown situation in most parts of the country, it's really exciting for me. Folks are going to go in their cities to their different jam sessions, I think with a renewed sense of like purpose and feeling like, well, I might not have learned how to make sourdough bread, but I can play jazz better, and so I'm ready for that jam session.
It is. We are. I hesitate to call us the sourdough bread of jazz piano education. But
well, no, it's different because no one actually learned how to do that correctly.
I know.
They're actually learning it over there. See,
but man, we have such a great time over there, and we're working every day. We started working today, brand new month, brand new subject. So we started working on simple solo piano voicings and simple solo piano strategies. Listening to, you know who's awesome online for writing really long ass but insightful Facebook posts? Benny Green.
Ooh,
incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
You follow that guy on social media?
Of course.
I think he's writing a book. He alluded that he's writing a book. I really hope that's true because his Facebook posts are like chapters in his history of jazz piano from the time he started playing till now. And I've been listening to a lot of solo piano, but a post that he made yesterday or maybe this morning highlighted Cedar Walton and his solo playing, and I started listening to a bunch of Cedar Walton this morning and just blown away by the solo piano playing. So we're going to be doing some of that kind of stuff.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And actually I think that solo piano is going to be, I mean, solo piano is always an important skill to have, right? And although we're very excited to be getting out there and playing with other musicians and stuff, because we're at this period maybe where there's going to be a little bit limited capacity and different kinds of venues and stuff, great time for us to really continue to focus in on our solo piano and take advantage of maybe those being some of the first gig and playing situations to open up.
All right, we have our first question.
All right.
From Jose. Jose says, thanks for the great interview. Connecting with Ron Carter, can you guys talk about social media presence / importance / need? That's a great question, actually.
It's a great one. And I think actually I love what I've been paying closer attention to what Ron Carter in particular, because I didn't know he was as active, and I know he's gotten a little bit more active during the pandemic period personally on his YouTube channel. Highly recommend that. We have a link from the interview episode directly to Ron. You can just look, it's Ron Carter bassist. But, I love somebody like that, somebody that's a seasoned pro. I love like his embrace of, I mean, look, Ron is 83 years old. He's played on he's literally in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of records ever played on by a bass player, probably by any jazz musician. So, I mean, if anyone could just kick up their feet and rest on their laurels and not have to worry about posting on Instagram or on YouTube, is Ron Carter. So he's not doing it to like get his name out there like we are, right?
Right.
But what he has to say is just so interesting, and it's such a gift. And I think about like Herbie Hancock has done this at different times on social media, and a lot of the older, I don't even want to say older, just the really pro musicians, like the legends when they do engage. Let's like really Chick Corea. I mean, over the last year before we lost him,
awesome.
Just a couple months ago, the gifts that he gave us on his YouTube channel and through his academy and all that, it's just golden stuff, because it's literally just giving. Like Ron, he put up a great thing, I think, yesterday. I don't even know if we had a chance to talk about this yet, but he was saying he's going to do a Zoom meeting every week. He's like, I'm just going to answer your questions. He's like, sign up for my email list, and he's got a suit on and his pocket square.
Nice.
Looking different than he did with our interview. I was about to be like, wait, you didn't oh, that's okay. Interview number 2, he's going to come with the suit. But it was just such a cool thing, and he's listening to some stuff he's playing, and like, what a treat. And so, yeah, check our stuff out. Check out the younger musicians, but make sure you really check in on the legends. That wasn't the question, though, but it was about social media.
Well, yeah, the question is can you talk about social media presence? So that's definitely, it fits it. So the importance of it and the need of it, I think that really varies. Man, I've actually been wanting to talk to you about this, Peter, on the podcast for a while. Like, I thought at some point we need to do an episode on social media jazz musicians, because there's now a generation, it's not even a age thing, but there's like this generation of Instagram jazz musicians, right? I mean, Instagram musicians, TikTok musicians in general.
Well, I've never heard you say the word TikTok musician.
But
Are you going to stand behind that?
I might. But so it's, for me, it's a tricky one because there's a lot of people that I think it's a very annoying thing to be just an Instagram musician where you're just posting the best stuff for people to hear like, you know what I mean? You take 100 takes of you blowing something ridiculous and then you try to build a following out of just pure chops. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there's some brilliant, like there's Mono Neon, who's super funny and fun to watch on Instagram and
the bass player.
Amazing. Obviously Jacob Collier started his career on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't have Jacob Collier in the culture, but then there are more annoying versions of that, of just pure chop monsters that just post every day a choppy thing without actually, I think, making really good music, you know, making good songs, making good, compelling albums. It becomes a bit of a popularity contest, like in the most superficial, Instagram-y way. That is something I think we could discuss in general. Something that we've talked about before, but I truly believe too, is that all of this really starts, any kind of like whatever you want to do promotion-wise, whether that's on social media or whether that's in a newspaper ad, has to start in the practice room first. Like that's your biggest promotional material is practicing, getting better.
We're talking about practice.
We're talking about practice. We're talking about just being a good artist, like being a quality musician. If you don't have that, you don't really need social media because there's nothing to showcase. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's got to be the right balance. And we don't know if this is 80-20, 90-10, but it's definitely not 50-50. It's not like when you get up and say, I've got, 4 hours today, and you should really have more than that, especially if you're a young hustling musician or pro musician. But let's say you have 4 hours to dedicate to your craft of developing as a jazz guitarist or whatever. You should not be saying, okay, I'm going to spend an hour on TikTok, an hour on Instagram, an hour on my YouTube, and then 45 minutes practicing, and then 15 minutes smoking weed. That's not going to lead to anything productive, is it?
No, I mean,
it's going to lead to some crappy TikTok videos.
Well, what are you making? You're making TikTok videos. At the end of the day, you're just a TikTok artist whose lane is jazz, as opposed to a jazz musician like Ron Carter's a great example, who doesn't actually need to post on social media, but is using it as a way to just, to connect to people that want to hear his music. Like that's a different kind of way to use it as a tool, I think. And I think most of the really great musicians use it that way in general. Like I think most of the great musicians are more concerned with playing in front of people or making, great works of art that stand up on their own as they are with being a TikTok chop monster.
Right. And then we also have to think about, we want to hit you have to find the right channels that work for you. Like if you're, Ethan Iverson and you're not just a wonderful pianist, but you're a great writer and really a journalist. I'll put Ethan Iverson as one of our best jazz journalists nowadays. So he's on, I think, a couple different channels, but especially like on Twitter, he's really good because he's a writer. That's where writers hang out. That's where writing is done. I think Ron Carter is on YouTube and maybe Instagram doing these things like TikTok. If it's limited to the length of time, that's probably not going to be good for a lot of jazz type situations. If it's forcing you into something, because then it's going to start to breed that kind of playing where it's like what you were talking about, where it's got to be flashy right away. Totally. But then there was a great rant post from our friend of the pod, Robert Glasper. He hasn't come on yet, but I have texted. No, he's a friend of the pod. He's told me he's a friend of it, a fan, whatever. But did you see his rant from the other day?
I try to follow his rants as closely as possible because he's amazing. He's the greatest ranter that's ever been in our medium here.
Right, but he had a great thing about Instagram. He's just like, a lot of you hitting me up,
The rant about the charts first. I mean, is that the one you're talking about?
No, this was about collaborations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I saw the one about hitting me up for a chart. He's like,
oh, that was
learn it.
great too. Yeah. He's like, learn it like we had to do it.
Yeah,
he's like, why are you so lazy?
Yeah.
No, this one was similar, but rant, like he's laying in bed, like he just woke up and like went through his thing and got mad and just recording. But he made a great point. He basically was saying like, you hit me up to collaborate. I don't know who you are. He's like, you know what? He said, I'm looking through my DMs. I was like, you know what? Let me check out some of these people. I don't want to be above anyone. Let me see what they have happening. Maybe there's something dope happening in here. And so he says he clicks on the first one. He's like, yo, Rob, let's collaborate. He clicks on this person, gets to their Instagram, and he's like, it's all selfies. No music, all selfies, all like flossing. Look at me here. And he's just like, why would you not be using this to put your music out there? Why are you going to go say collaborate with? Am I going to collaborate because I like the way you look at a selfie? You know? And so it's just that kind of mentality. There's nothing wrong with Instagram or TikTok or any of these channels. You pick the one that you like and you think can work for you, but then like act like a musician, act like a jazz musician on there. Don't become something else and be like, I'm going to be Kim Kardashian on Instagram unless you're a fashion designer or whatever the hell she is. It's like, and I think Jacob Collier is a good example of that. I mean, he just did himself, and that was just the medium that he had access to, and it's worked for him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It can be an amazing tool. Yeah, it just as long as the tail's not wagging the dog.
Ooh, I like that.
Sometimes you see.
So was a good actually.
Should we start the podcast?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. We are doing a podcast.
You ready?
Yeah.
Hey Peter.
Hey.
We're late.
We are. So just go ahead and kick the intro.
There we go. I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear podcast.
Music advice coming at you in several formats and several channels.
Hey, listen,
all through the airwaves.
We're only 14 months into this thing. There's no...
Well, today's unique, though. This is a unique episode. It's going to be a little bit of a recap. And this is actually going to be fun because this is going to be a little bit of a Q&A and retrospective of something that the actual... Now, this is getting meta now. The actual episode's not going to come out until later. So this is going to be a little bit of a teaser. We're going back in time and we're going forward in time all at the same time.
Yeah, so we'll have an episode that gets dropped on Thursday for our audio podcast. That is an interview with the great Ron Carter.
Yeah.
That just got premiered here on YouTube. And so now we're going to take questions, a little Q&A, which we haven't done in a while. And,
always fun.
Always fun. So we have some good questions already about practice.
Yes.
So we love to talk about practice. We're talking about practice.
We love to just say, we're talking about practice?
That's right.
And just to think about Allen Iverson,
So Musa says, how long do you practice? Or did you practice a day? How long a day? It's one of those questions that has varied as life has hit us in different stages, Musa. I think I can speak for Peter with that.
Yes.
When I was younger, and I know this is true of you too.
When I was a young man.
I really, some days, I didn't even put on pants. I just sat at the piano and played.
Okay, let's visualize
Let's
that.
Let's not. But you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like when you're young and you don't have responsibilities, it's like you just play. I mean, I didn't even count the hours. It was just play as much as possible and then go play it at a club and then come home and play some more and then play and listen,
Yep.
And now that, Peter and I both have open studio and families and schools, kids in schools and all this stuff, right? It's not as much as certainly then, but I know we both try to keep a somewhat regular routine. When I sit down to practice, it's probably not going to be for anything less than an hour at this point.
Ooh, I like it. Dogmatic.
Well, yeah, because like if I sit down at the piano, I have a little time. You know what I mean? If I don't, it's probably because I have 15 minutes to like write a guided practice session for the Open Studio Pro, right?
Yeah.
But if not, it's like I'm going to sit down for an hour. I'm going to get some good technical work in. I'm going to get some good like transcribing in possibly, and just work on some new ideas that I'll have.
Yeah. Well, and I think that part of the benefit with having a little bit more experience with practice with your instrument is that you can kind of generally optimize what it is and how you're practicing so that you really should be able to fit what used to take 4 hours into say an hour or 2 hours. So just in terms of like getting right to the stuff you need to work on and also being able to not necessarily skip over the more rudimentary things, but kind of review them a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you can be a little bit more targeted with your practice. And I know for me, I don't really do any of those. I mean, occasionally I'll do those like 6 or 8 hour days, or they're almost just like you're playing all day and you kind of lose yourself in it. I think the times I do it, it's probably similar to you, is like writing, more like you're under the gun on an arranging or composition gig or whatever.
I still will stumble across an idea, right? Like
Yeah.
a new idea to me that I'll want to just take through the paces. And if
Yeah.
I have a good 4, 5, 6 hour block,
Yeah.
I can get lost in that for sure.
Yeah.
Just taking it through different situations and tunes I know and keys and all that stuff, you know.
What I am noticing is that I've gotten a lot better self-awareness in terms of like what my output can be at different times of the day, you know, based on how I'm feeling, how did I rest and things like that. So I generally find now that I have like 3 to 4 hours a day of like very, very deep thinking or practicing or creating or just like getting something accomplished. And then there's the rest of the day. I can certainly do things, but like those hours, and it does vary a little bit. It's been more regular because I've been on a more regular schedule, but I find that if I can use those times, at least 2 of those hours at the piano, I can get almost as much as my mind and physically I can get done in a day.
For sure.
Whereas when I was younger, it was like I had to spend more time to kind of get that. So then if I do go beyond that 3 to 4 hours, or if I use that all up at the piano, which is great, but I have to do something else in terms of like writing an email or making a phone call that's really, I need to be very focused on. I don't always have, it's almost like I've used up that day's very highest level kind of thinking and creativity. So can still do some other things. So I've started to look at not all the time as being equal either. So that's why it's not always just about the amount of time. It's like, can you take that? And look, some people maybe can do more than 3 to 4 hours. And there's some days that like I have 2 hours of that kind of level of thing. But once we start to get in better touch with that, I think we can look at really applying. And a lot of times people be like, I was really in a flow state. I was really super productive, uber productive, whatever, hyper productive. Like there's all different ways of looking at it. But that kind of next level, creativity or productivity you can't guarantee that's going to be there all day long.
Can we share? You want to share a little bit? I would love to share with you some of the coolest stuff that I've been working on, like some stuff. So, and then you can I'd love to hear some breakthroughs that you've had during the pandemic about like if there's any cool concepts or something that you've been practicing. Yeah. So I've been working on this thing. It's based on like some you know that Barry Harris. You know that thing, this little warm up?
Sure.
So this idea of approaching a diatonic tone from a diatonic tone above it or a half step below it, right? Those are your 2 options to approach it, from either a half step below our target. So if we have a C major scale, you can approach the C from a half step below, or a diatonic tone above, or a combination. And we've been doing this at the Daily Guided Practice session, but I've just been having so much fun working this through, like in triads, using this to like do different intervals, you know, like thirds and sixths and fifths. And just practice. Like what happens is you start to, when you spend enough time just working on these beautiful little melodic devices. Yeah. I've played a couple of like trio gigs lately, and my playing seems more melodic than ever. Like even though I'm showing examples here where it seems very rigid and like I'm going
like
through
a robot.
Yeah, like a robot going through patterns. It's not at all how I'm working through it, and it comes out in your playing in this very organic. I feel like I'm like Cole Porter live on the piano, like I'm just writing melodies. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'll throw out there, which is not as interesting and specific as that I have been coming back to. I haven't been practicing it constantly, but I keep coming back to it because it's sitting on my piano at home all the time, is Scott Joplin rags. Yeah. I've been like, especially ones that I don't know as well, or I haven't played in a while. It's been very interesting to me because it's such a great, it hits a number of different things. One, kind of nostalgia for me because that was like the first jazz I played in a way. I had like the rag book, and when I was playing piano, when I was really young, I tried to play it and I could read music, but it was just too difficult, and then I kept coming back to it. But that kind of first actually pulled me into jazz. And then it's topical here because Scott Joplin lived at, a couple blocks from here, from Open Studio, obviously before we were around, but his persona and his music, his aura about him is always, I feel like, kind of in this neighborhood and rides high above St. Louis is just one of the masters. They came out of this area. And also just great for sight reading, and it's just fun stuff to play. And it's a great kind of space to be in between like New Orleans and St. Louis blues and classical and opera and jazz. It kind of
awesome. There's so much to learn in those too.
Yeah. And it's been fun. So I've been having some fun with that.
That's excellent. So there's some really great questions here. John has a OS Pro question. John actually says, I need a OS Pro infomercial. Happy to oblige, John. So what would be the minimum level of piano for OS Pro? Piano is not my main instrument. Do you plan on expanding it to other instruments like guitar? Yeah, actually, John, we do plan on expanding it quite a bit here. We're taking our time because we want it to be good, obviously. But you do need some minimal piano proficiency to be able to kind of like come hang in the daily guided practice session, but not as much as you might think. You don't have to be like a gigging musician. We have beginners in there for sure.
I was going to say, we always shy away from saying beginner, intermediate, advanced, but I know that we have gotten a better idea about it. And wouldn't you say beginner to intermediate?
I think so.
A little bit more shaded towards intermediate.
I think so. Yeah, there are definitely some more beginner players that are, I think, doing great and really advancing and learning and sort of dipping their toes in that sort of intermediate, I could almost go out and play a gig now kind of waters. But yeah, don't feel like, I mean, I would say, John, if you know about music, like piano technique will be something that gets taken care of if you come and practice with us every day.
Right.
Because we do basic scales. Like we do warm-ups on like much slower than that even. You know what I mean? Like getting some chops together. So.
Yeah, and I always think these, specifically OS Pro, but that the kind of level that it is at, if we say it's clearly at intermediate, does have value for some, probably not the most advanced pro player, your Aaron Goldberg, your Robert Glasper might not need to be in there, but you're more kind of going towards a advanced player. But I'm like, back to the practice question, I always think that it's, and I've spent a lot of time doing this, and it's a big philosophy I got from my mom and dad, who are both musicians and teachers, is that you spend a lot of time practicing things that you can really handle well, that are somewhat basic, that will make you feel like the equivalent of lifting less, bench pressing less pounds than you can do, but doing it with better technique.
That's right.
So that's the whole thing of like, if you're practicing classical music, not playing the late Beethoven sonatas, even though you probably could kind of get through them, but to do the early ones where you can really master them. Like the more you err on the side of that, from a jazz standpoint, learn a solo that's maybe simpler than you could learn.
Absolutely.
But that's where you're going to put the fun in fundamentals.
Oh, boy, this
Come
guy.
on.
This is a really great question by J.R. Magnus. You sound like a Formula One driver.
J.R. Magnus, riding for Ferrari.
That's right.
I don't know why I said it
Will
like
substandards eventually only survive as pedagogical tools rather than be part of our actual repertoire?
We hope so.
We can't expect audiences to want to hear Autumn Leaves for countless decades, can we? Well, I don't know about that, actually. Yeah. First of all, if you take the terrible jam session versions of Autumn Leaves out of your head, it's a pretty decent tune.
Well, hold on. I'm doing it.
It's almost impossible.
No, I'm doing it.
Well, you know what? Listen to Keith Jarrett live at the Blue Note play it, and you'll like realize, holy smokes, that's a good song. Like it's a solid song for sure. Or something like All the Things You Are. I really hope that doesn't go out of favor with audience, because it's just absolutely brilliant and beautiful. It gets to be tiresome to play the same tunes over and over again if you're a bass player who has a weekly jam session gig and you have to do 100 choruses of Autumn Leaves. Yeah. But I don't think that those classic tunes, especially the tunes now that everybody are learning to learn the music, I think they'll probably be around for a while. Like maybe those top 20. Yeah, like Great American Songbook standards, but I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like saying, will Beethoven's Fifth be around for a while, even though it's like totally overplayed in American orchestras. You know what I mean? I
rarely do this, but I'm going to disagree with you, Mr. Maness. There,
do it. Please.
I mean, Adam. I would never disagree with Mr. Maness, your father. I agree with everything he says, but the reason I would say is it's not like the Beethoven Fifth is because. Well, maybe a little, like based upon performances, but those notes are already down. The Beethoven Fifth is what it is. So that, yes, you are dependent upon performances, but whether or not it goes in and out of style is going to be more, I think it's going to be more of like a meritocracy of what people want to hear and if it continues to resonate with people. Whereas Autumn Leaves, ultimately, the way that we consume it as jazz musicians, as lovers of jazz music, is really about what the performances are. So yeah, if it's only crappy versions at crappy jam sessions, then no one's going to want to hear. But that's not necessarily Autumn Leaves' fault. It's more pliable. It's in the hands of the musicians. So it's up to, like, if great musicians and really good players, and even just average and above players, want to play these tunes, they're going to sound good on it. And people are going to be like, I like hearing that. And they're going to want to continue to hear that, because the meritocracy is going to happen based upon just the general listeners, what they're being presented with. So if the good players want to play the tunes, they're going to survive.
Yeah.
If they don't, no one's going to have a chance to hear it, or if only the lesser players, you know. But normally your less advanced players are going to kind of be looking up to the more advanced players anyway for those things.
That's true.
But then sometimes things can just sort of fall off for other reasons, not because they're not good or because people don't like to play over them, just because they just like accidental go out of fashion, or just no one's talked about them for a while through no fault of the tune's own.
Robert has a good question that I think we could probably answer simultaneously. You ready?
Yes.
Which pianist have each of you transcribed and drawn from the most? Here we go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
McCoy
Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, Herbie Hancock. Okay. Well, we are a finely tuned machine here.
You'll hear it. Wow. Oh, we went off again.
Are you serious? No, we didn't. Oh. No, we're back. We're back. See, if this red button stays on, I know we're good. You know what? I think with this system, though, it's sort of seamless. So they're going to be like, what are they talking about? We thought we lost
know.
you guys.
They wouldn't know.
All right, that was funny, because maybe that was the internet gods conspiring against us because we didn't say the same. So you said, okay, let's talk about this. You said Herbie Hancock. Wait, was the question who we had? What was the exact question? Could you
who had we transcribed and drawn the most inspiration from?
Okay, maybe that's where we got confused, because that's sort of two different things, possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, because I was just.
I would say those are both of our top twos, though.
I know,
actually.
for sure.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait, is he thinking Wynton Kelly? Because we haven't transcribed him maybe the most, but that one solo.
We don't do a lot of Herbie Hancock transcriptions, actually.
No, but I'm saying Wynton Kelly, we've drawn so much from that one particular solo in a way.
Off of KOB.
KOB?
Yeah.
Not familiar.
FF from KOB.
But yeah, McCoy Tyner, Herbie. I mean, of course, Herbie's a huge inspiration. Although I got to tell you, right now, Sir Ron Carter's a huge inspiration to me personally. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. But that's the great thing about this music and the personalities. And somebody, I think it was Chris, said something early, or that I just wanted to touch on with that earlier question about social media, that I thought was so smart. And look, this is great. We're getting so many cool comments that I may not be able to find it, but I'm going to paraphrase him or her in case it was somebody else. And it was basically like, the thing they love about social media is the ability, as they were like, as fans of this music, is the ability to directly connect with artists and with musicians, and to hear from that, whether that's music or ideas or what you had for breakfast or whatever. And that's such a big thing. And I know for me, things that I'm a fan on, which like are music. It's not like, oh, I'm only one who presents on social media. I'm looking at Ron Carter and Herbie Hancock and Robert Glasper, and like, this stuff is exciting to me. Even if I know them personally, it's still fun. I'm not getting a chance to talk to them every day. It's fun. I mean, I could like call Robert Glasper probably and get him on the phone and be like, hey man, give me one of your rants. Come on, quick. And he'll do it like one day, maybe even the second day, but in a while he's gonna be like, so, you know what, check my Instagram.
You know what? I hate it when jazz YouTubers call me up and ask me for a rant just to get them some views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that is fun. And then just other people like in the, plant-based nutrition and endurance space. I don't know if I watch the Rich Roll podcast. I'm a big fan. But I mean, I also like to see his. You've heard. Yeah. But I like to see his runs every day, or his bikes or swims on Strava. Like, I can see where he went in California and his really cool pictures and stuff. And so I think, the social media, YouTube, all this stuff, when it's in the hands of somebody like Ron Carter, and Ron is like, has his phone in his house and is like, hello, I'm Ron Carter. I mean, what? It doesn't get any cooler than that. That was the stuff when we were kids geeking out listening to My Funny Valentine.
It would have been awesome.
Yeah, that's what I wanted,
awesome. I
But,
know. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. It's been a minute since we've done a Q&A. This is super fun. Yeah, we might do some more of these. Although I do miss the cavalcade of comments. The carousel.
That's not what you call it early. Oh, that's what you call it early.
The crappy cavalcade of.
But you know what?
Commenting.
You're only saying it's crappy because you fixate on like the 0.001% of negative comments.
I fixate on the negative comments?
You do. I'm not saying I don't either.
You want to noodle around a little bit on that for a while?
No, go ahead and talk while I play. No, but you really fixate.
I do though?
Come on, I never call it a cavalcade of until they started talking about me.
Exactly. I think just I get more negative.
No, but when it comes from me, it comes hard.
Everybody loves Peter. Come on.
That is not true. The guy on the right, they don't like. If they know me by name, if they know you by name, they love us. If they're just like randomly drifting by on the YouTube algorithm, who knows? All right. Well, this was a fun podcast. So look, everybody tune in on this Thursday to the podcast here. Leave us a rating review if you get a chance. That helps spread the word. But tune in on Thursday for the full audio version. You can check it out early on YouTube if you want to. But on the audio pod will be Thursday. Mr. Ron Carter, our conversation. How was that story about Miles Davis? Does it get any better than that?
That was as good as
so
it gets.
Cool.
It's as good as
Throwing
it gets.
shade yet complimenting Miles at the same time. So until next episode,
You'll hear it. Good to go.
Cool. That was awesome. All right, YouTube. So, man, we're like a show within a show within a show within a show that never ends today, right? Should we take a couple more questions specifically for YouTube?
Chris says, need an OS shirt for Peter that says happy noodling. That'd be awesome.
Man, you know what? I am a noodler.
We all are, man. I love the noodling.
I mean, you stick a Hammer 88 in front of me, man. I'm a noodler. We want to say a big shout out to Isabella from Dubai. Actually, my good our neighbors who live next door to us here, who's a wonderful woman who was also my guidance counselor when I was in middle school. Her son lives in Dubai right now, so that was kind of on my mind. And just real quick, we're going to run through a couple of questions and comments. After Evans, A Lost Autumn Leaves Ahmad Jamal live in 2017 in Paris.
Oh, cool.
I got to check that out.
Slightly Shook. What is a good checklist, targeted practice for someone whose goal is to attend their first jam session as a pianist? So, Slightly Shook, I would make a list of tunes that you would want to know.
Yeah.
Right. And so you would want to learn, I would say make your list fairly robust, 10 to 20 if possible, so that and make them sort of jam session friendly. We have some at Open Studio. I think we've had plenty of like the 17 tunes you got to know video you could check out here on our channel.
17. So we're so ambitious.
But that's a good number though.
Yeah.
To get together, because there's a good chance that someone's like Autumn Leaves and you're like, no. And then they're like Round Midnight and then you're like, no. And then they're like All of Me and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I think all three of those are on the 17.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you won't be embarrassed if you learn like 10 to 20 of like the most jam session-y standards.
Yeah.
So just make them prepared. Make sure that you have them in a couple of keys just in case.
Yes.
And that also will help your musicianship. And I don't know, what else do you think?
Well, I think along with that, you might do, not to overly complicate it, but be thinking about like as you're learning and developing that list, and it can certainly go beyond that for future, but you don't want to get overwhelmed, is be listening to the next list of 17 or really even on that 17, you're always listening ahead to what you're going to learn, because you make it in a situation, and this just depends on like kind of your skill level, but also how confident and I would say reckless, but it's not really, this is not brain surgery in that if you make a mistake and get lost on a tune in a jam session, you're going to kill somebody. So let's always remember that.
Well, I've almost died on a couple of jam sessions.
But it's a false equivalency, my friend. No, but the idea that like there are certain tunes, All of Me might be one of them, that you say you have listened to a lot and really like some good listening, but you haven't gotten to like yet to learn, like to sit down and really learn from a reference recording. But you're at a jam session. How about All of Me? And you might take that opportunity to be like, okay, let's do it. Yeah. And you're going to kind of just jump off that ledge a little bit, but you've got some reference point. I can tell you, for me, one tune that strikes that I will never forget was what's
Softly?
Softly.
Yeah,
Softly.
yeah.
You know the story.
I do know the
That's
story.
my friend. Softly was called in a kind of high pressure situation. I was a little embarrassed to say I didn't know it. And I never played it.
That's a good one to hear through, though, because it's
very.
There's not a lot going on.
Right, but I definitely had heard it enough, so I was like, so what happened was I kind of slopped my way the first couple choruses, but by the third or fourth chorus, I pretty much knew it, and then by the time I got to my solo, I was confident. The great byproduct of that was that I know that tune now forever, probably better than any other tune, because of that trial by fire.
It was so intense, for sure.
So intense.
I know.
So,
yeah.
So you might always have a list of those as well.
And learning a tune is a whole other thing. And as Peter has alluded to, it's all about listening. So just listen to a bunch of these tunes. Keep track slightly, Shook. Like make your list, check it off when you practice it in a few keys, really learn the tunes. I mean, I think it's almost more important to be learn the tunes, learn the melodies, learn how to comp over them more than it is how to solo over them. Especially if you're a pianist, like learn how to play the tune first, and then go to the jam session and have fun.
John had another quick question about OS Pro, and that is it on a live set schedule or does it adjust around an individual's time or both? So I'll jump in and then you can finish off, Adam. It's at a live time. The core, I mean, first of all, OS Pro encompasses like a whole bunch of stuff, basically every single piece of content that we have at Open Studio, but the part specific and exclusive to OS Pro is at a set time, which is generally 1 p.m. Most of the events are 1 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern time zone, but it's also available recorded if you can't make it at any time. And you could do it entirely. You could access the recordings of it and just do it whenever you want. It's going to be probably more fun, and you get in on the community aspect if you're there live. But I know many of your students do sort of a combination of both.
Yeah, it is kind of a combination of both. But we're trying to push the live classes for that and we're going to expand that here as we expand Open Studio Pro. Great to see all the Open Studio Pro love here, John.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's an awesome thing. Like we've been just blown away by the response to it. So we're going to keep it going. It's going to be a big deal, I think, going forward for us and hopefully for our students that are getting so much out of it.
Yeah, Adam has actually started to require us around here to call him Mr. Big Deal in conjunction with Open Studio Pro.
So that's coming. My title was creative director, but now I've changed the placard in my office to Mr. Big Deal. Yeah.
Oh, big deal.
Khan says, I may have missed any discussions on Barry Harris. How do you guys feel about his approach applies to learning and adapting the bebop language in your musical arsenal? So can we have a frank discussion about talking about jazz theory and how to teach it? Because we do a lot of it around here, and we get a lot of feedback about how we do it, good and bad. And I think Barry Harris is obviously one of the best ever at teaching anything. He's got a very direct approach. So I think the way he puts things is just so easy to understand, and he's got a lot of great ideas. I think it's all worth listening to. It's like listening to any great musician talk about music. I'll put a caveat on that, though, that you can get a lot of what he's talking about from listening to his records and other people's records, and that's probably gives you more than what you can get from just listening to him or any Yahoo on YouTube talk about, including me and you, Peter, talk about it, right? Just listen to the music and like... It kind of actually, it's really hard to talk about music and talk about how to make it. And we do our best here to be very clear and respectful that it's an auditory way to learn, you know, but I get frustrated because there's really no great way to talk about any of this thing without just being like, just listen to the records and get it from the records. So like I did this thing on Friday, the greatest music theory lesson of all time. Yeah. Right. All about.
Don't oversell it.
No. It's all about the bebop tune Donna Lee, by who knows who, but
Charlie Parker. Oh, did you get brushed back on that? Is somebody else?
So I did. I've been on YouTube long enough that I do plenty of research before I say anything now. But
haters gonna hate.
So I have it by Charlie Parker because that's the official who it's by.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than that. A lot of people say, well, no, it's actually by Miles Davis because Miles Davis claimed it was by him, but it's not. It's more.
Miles never did that in any other time.
I know, right? No, it's actually not even that simple. There's
Fun fact: Miles Davis was 5'11" according to Ron Carter. We learned that.
No, the history of the authorship of Donna Lee is actually very complex and super interesting. There's great threads and historians that talk about it. It's really cool. But I'm just saying Charlie Parker because that's what the copyright version is, but who knows? Anyway.
Stylistically, it feels like it's him.
Some people disagree.
Ooh.
I know, yeah. But I don't think it feels like Miles
YouTube
either.
videos coming on this.
We could actually, I commented on there, it could be its own YouTube channel, The History of Donna Lee. And some of these tunes. Anyway, the greatest revised jazz theory lesson of all time. No, so a lot of people gave me pushback more than anything about just saying scales, like talking about it in the terms of scales. Yeah. And, we never push like learn scales to learn jazz. Like, we don't talk about it like that. I just don't know what else to call a certain collection of notes, then this is a harmonic minor scale. Like, it's really about, I consider it more like a color palette on an easel,
Yeah.
right? Or on a palette, right?
Yeah.
That's about to be painted, than like a series of notes. It's really just a color thing. And you get that by learning the tunes and learning the solos, but there's no great way to talk about it without talking about scale choices. And that sounds very prescribed, whatever, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. It's just hard to talk about, like, look at, it's like, obviously there was a choice made here on this part of the song. How do we talk about that without saying, like, play this scale on this chord? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think it's good, and I think hopefully we hit the right balance, and everyone has to have their own style of teaching in terms of like theory, which in its essence is an after the fact analysis. It's like you're looking at Donnelly, and it's like, what can we analyze and learn from this, that the brilliance of how it was written or improvised or whatever, the improviser might not even, and likely wasn't thinking about these things, but like with hindsight 2020, we can go back and like almost do like a postmortem reconstruction of it that can be very interesting. It's not always totally applicable or needed for the actual art of improvisation, but like many things, anything that kind of expands our understanding of ear training and just basically gives us better ear training is going to be helpful. But I think all these different ways, Barry Harris's way of teaching that is so specific, and it's very complicated, so a lot of people get confused, like me.
Yeah.
But it's very simple in that it's like he has one way of doing things and he has one way of looking at things. So it's like we can take from each of these different things and then always through the filter of listening. I mean, it's kind of like Ron Carter with chartography, with his transcription book. It's not, you might think like, oh, this is just for bass players to think about how you read notes that he played, but it's much more than that. That's part of the reason I love that he pulls in with the QR code, the listening of it. Yeah. Like, you don't take it apart from what everybody, and we talked about that with him. It's like, you're not pulling it apart from what everybody else in the band was playing, but this is the foundation of it, and how does it change? So it's like a theoretical examination of it, but through a little bit of a different lens, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's great. To piggyback on that, just and maybe wrap this up too, I think to think about this in any sort of jazz instruction, especially on things like YouTube or even in books, what you're really getting is how that musician thinks about sound and music. And you're not really, like, you can also get that by transcribing Coltrane on Crescent. Like, you don't have to have someone explain it to you. But even when they explain it, that doesn't mean that this is the way to do it. That's just how they think about it. That's all that's happening there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff. Well, thank you, YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for being here for all the different events. This was really exciting. We've been on, as I said, Cloud 9 for the last week after our initial conversation with Mr. Carter. So big thanks to Ron Carter, and big happy birthday. May the 4th be with Ron Carter and all of us from his beautiful music. And what else you got, Adam?
That's it, man.
Okay. Well, until next time.
You'll hear it.
All right, we're still can be heard, but we can't be seen. So we kind of take on another persona. Have you ever noticed that?
We get very quiet. Like, if
we get closer to the mic. I don't know why. NPR, yes.
Welcome to All Jazz Considered. I'm Adam Siegel.
I'm Rachel Martin.
That's an actual.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I'm Stevinsky.
Just for anybody wondering, that's me.